What if I told you that there's no gravitational force pulling things down when they are above the ground, and that a gravity well is the reality? Hold on before you say I'm crazy. This is what I found out after some research about the most famous scientist, and by the end of this video, you'll fully understand why science is so confusing. So please, watch till the end to get the big reason, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button, as it's our goal to get to 100 subscribers by the end of this year. If you are an art student or someone who has never done science before, you might think that everything about science is correct. Not until you find out how science works. You'll be left thinking just because something sounds right? It's the right way of seeing it. But since you are here and watching this video, let me give you some info of how science works. You see, basically a law in science is anything that has been proven to be true, and accepted by the science department or whatsoever department capable of calling it a law. For example, one guy called Albert Einstein shows up in the department one early morning or late midnight with a new formula, E=mc², calls it a law, and proves it is one to the others in charge. Just because he proved it and his proof is acceptable, the law holds. But at times, things don't go that smooth forever. You see, scientists disagree and argue a lot at times after finding out that one law or the other is wrong or missing something. To begin with, one guy called Isaac Newton about 400 years ago made a law about objects falling from a height after an apple had fallen on his head, which didn't happen. He was mad and thought, why didn't the apple fall up or sideways? Why did it fall down? Well, he had assumed that a force pulls it towards the earth, called the force of gravity. But was he correct? Well, even an average person who didn't go to school might tell you something similar to that, which, speaking of that, this law is being taught in schools till today. Even though it's not actually true as some scientists say, yes, you heard me right. A great scientist known as Albert Einstein, who almost looks like drunken master, after hearing about this objects falling from the sky or why we move downward after we jump, law, got bored one day and decided to carry out some experiments of his own. After carrying out his own experiments, he found out something, but when he shared the information with his other genius colleagues, his idea was denied completely. Wanna know what amazing information he found out? Well, please smash that subscribe button as I tell you. Thank you. Just because it was considered too good to be true. He called it the general theory of relativity. He had found out that everything in a gravitational field and affected by it only falls at the same rate. But before he found that out, another scientist had done so, and later on after he did, David Scott went to the moon and demonstrated with a hammer and a feather for people to see. Here on Earth, a hammer and a feather are no comparison for who'll reach the ground first, since the hammer is quite heavy but a feather isn't heavy at all. But in the moon, they both reached the ground at the same time. Meaning Albert the drunken master, the scientist, was correct on that part. Another point about the general theory of relativity was that Einstein insisted that gravity is not the force acting between two objects moving near each other, but instead, it is something that happens to two objects moving around each other in space. When space and time do their thing. Since no force acts between them, they will move in a straight line, and that small objects are not being pulled by big ones, but instead, they are being pushed downward by the space above them. Do you get the point? Well, you might not until I use physics to explain, which will make the video boring, so let's let that be. He also said objects don't move towards the Earth because of a gravitational force pulling them, but instead because the Earth forms a gravity well which the objects are being pushed into. Was he correct? Well, he was, and was Isaac Newton wrong? Well, a yes or no answer can't go for this one. When I said I promise you a big reason at the end of the video, I meant it, okay? So the reason is, you see, science is all about limitations. There is barely any law that has no limits. Almost, if not all the laws, are correct only to an extent. The main understand behind the reason why Newton's law is still used till this day is because it's correct to an extent. After that extent, Einstein's law takes over. For example, Einstein's law is mostly used by astronauts working in space, while Newton's law is mostly used in cases closer to the ground, and to teach underage pupils or students about basic physics, since Newton's law is easier to understand. You see that science is confusing when laws get denied, right? Well, that's because humans are not perfect and hence make mistakes here and there. Besides, making a law or theory in science is not an easy job. A lot of people have tried and failed miserably. If you want to know more about science, then a sub to the channel will be amazing so you don't miss out on my upcoming uploads.